Hi everyone, this is Pauline Love from artfairmag, and today I've invited Sean Kelly, an iconic art dealer, to talk about the booming art market in Los Angeles. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. So Sean Kelly, you have highly regarded gallery based in New York and established more than 30 years ago. But last September, you decided to go west and open a new space in Los Angeles. So why this choice?
I've been visiting LA for over 4 decades. It's always been somewhere that I've found really fascinating, especially initially in terms of the artists who are there and the teaching practice in LA. I think has been really, really seminal and important. Everybody always said, LA is going to be the next big place. It's going to happen. And I've heard that probably 5 or 6 times in my career. But it seemed to me that at this moment that actually has come to fruition and it's all coalesced. So you have, really mature and incredible museums, but of course, many of them have been there since the 80s. Mm-hmm. So you have this teaching practice and this tradition in LA of artists being there and a lot of artists being trained and staying in LA. And also you've had an increasing influx of collectors. So there's always been very good collectors in LA, but I think especially during COVID, a lot of people decided to move to LA. And so it seems to me that those 3 essential legs to the stool have coalesced, and it seems like a very particular LA is really matured into a very strong market. So I think we've always had strong relationships there, very good client relationships, very good institutional relationships, and it seemed like the perfect moment to open a space there. And then there were another couple of factors. One of them is that many of our artists were not represented in LA, but were increasingly being offered representation in LA. And we sort of thought, well, why not do it ourselves? And then my son, who's been in the business for, many years, as has my daughter, really approached us, the directors of the gallery, with the idea of opening in LA and was prepared to take it on and to put together the program and to move there with his family. So that was the kind of final piece of the puzzle, I think, for us, because we felt very secure that if Thomas was going to take this on, that we would have a very high degree of security for the artists. Mm-hmm. And continuity, generational continuity in the gallery for the artist. And it just seemed to be like an obvious move at that point. I mean, it was as they say, it was a no-brainer.
Cool. And you were talking about the program. I guess you have in LA the same DNA that in New York, but the program may differ and maybe the artist featured differ as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the things that we've done over the, more than 3 decades that we've been in business is that we have retained and remained working with many of our artists. So we have great fidelity between the artists we started out the gallery with, most of whom we still now represent. We're not a gallery that jumps around very easily. We don't make commitments very easily. We like to take our time. We try to get it right. We're not very fashion driven. So we believe that we have a very high degree of sustainability in the business. So I think the key word that you used there is DNA. Yes, we believe that we can take a very high percentage of the DNA of the gallery into LA. But of course, we want to build upon that. We don't want it to be... I think one of the things that I've learned about LA over the decades is, people in LA always had a wariness of thinking that New York galleries would come in and they would get secondhand versions of that gallery in LA. So we're very, very conscious of that. It's very important to us that everything that we do in LA is done specifically for that market, is very fresh, and that we don't just transfer the DNA from New York to LA, but we actually take that DNA and build upon it. And that LA should have its own artists and have its own identity. And for us, that's very exciting because it's actually the sort of next, the 2.0 version of the gallery in a way, right? So it's not just being run by a younger generation, but they can take what they see fit from our program, but they can add to it and they can update it and they can move it into the next generation. Because collectors, they work generationally, just as dealers do. They like to be involved with material that is fresh for them and exciting for them. So, for us to just do the same thing we're doing in New York, I think would be very counterproductive.
And you were talking about collectors, but I presume you have very loyal customer base in New York. You said they moved massively during COVID, but who are your clients in Los Angeles? Are they the same profile as the one in New York?
We've been very, very fortunate as a gallery over the decades that we have an incredibly loyal client base, and we really value our client base very, very highly. I think it also comes from the kind of the way that we treat our artists and clients is very respectful. We try and treat people the way we would like to be treated.
Sure.
And so I think we have a very, very loyal client base. We have clients all over the world, of course, including LA. But the opportunity to be part of the community in LA really, I think, mitigates that we will build a much stronger client base on the West Coast, in LA and the West Coast. And of course, if we're there, we'll have much closer relationships to those collectors. But there is a younger generation of collectors that have moved all over the country, but I think a lot moved to LA during the pandemic because the lifestyle was much easier. They have outdoor space, etc. And I do think it's a burgeoning and very exciting community right now. So as I said, you have the museums doing incredible work as they have for decades, and being supplemented by world-class museums like the Broad. You have a very strong existing collector base with now a younger generation of collectors coming in. But you also have the art schools there with a very, very strong teaching tradition through artists like John Baldessari and Chris Burden and Nancy Rubin, etc. And many of the artists that come out of those institutions have chosen to stay in the area. So there's a really rich pool of artists in the area. And I think, when you see all three of those components in one place at one time, you know that the market has matured to a point where I think it really has established itself as being a really powerful, viable international market. And of course, it puts you one step closer to Asia as well. I mean, the gallery in LA now is 3,500 miles and six travel hours and three time difference hours closer to Asia. And of course, that's an incredibly important market that, ignore it at your peril, right? So it just makes an awful lot of sense for us, I think.
And finally, do you think the market there is big enough for many actors, because other international galleries came to Los Angeles? So are you afraid of the competition or not really?
I just don't see it like that. I don't see it as competition. I see it as, as validation. I think that, if other people are looking at opening there and having a presence there, it's good for everybody. And I don't see it as being competitive. I see it as being validatory in the sense that, it sort of makes us look like we made a good decision and that other people are making also good decisions. And frankly, I think the more concentration, the more focus, the better. I mean, the fact of the matter is that America is a very, very large part of the world art market. And New York is still the largest percentage of that American proportion of the art market. But I think the market is spreading and deepening. And I think LA will assume a very important position within that market base. And I think it makes total sense for people to be there. I don't see it in a competitive way at all. I think it's great. And the more exciting shows that are happening and the more exciting spaces that are being opened and programs that are being run, I think it's great for everybody. So, I hope that, really important LA galleries who are very well established, like Sean Reagan, will welcome other galleries into LA because they're the heartbeat. We're coming into their community. I hope they'll welcome us into their community. That's certainly been the case so far. And, that we'll become also we'll contribute to that community and actually make it richer and deeper and better. I think there's plenty of artists to work with. And the truth of the matter is that if you have the kind of program that many of these galleries have, that we have, you can sell the work all over the world. So, the show may be specific to LA, but it doesn't mean that everything stays in LA or that you're only selling to LA. We're selling all over the world. So, I think it's very attractive to our artists. A lot of them love to go to LA and spend time there. Why wouldn't you, right? So it works for everybody.
Thank you so much, Sean Kelly. It was super clear and interesting.
You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure.
Okay. I wish you a good day.
Nice to see you.